Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we have entered day 156 of the ongoing war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. And today, we're hearing a lot of noise about the prisoner of war camp, the alleged prisoner of war camp that both sides are claiming the other struck in this ongoing conflict. I'm going to take you to the relative locale of the prisoner of war camp. This camp was apparently holding Ukrainian prisoners of war. The town and the facility is located just to the south of Donetsk, and the town that it is located in is Avika. Anyway, I give up. There's the town, and the facility was obviously within the confines of this town. The Russians allege that Ukrainian HIMARS or some other multiple launch rocket system or longer range artillery struck the target. If you look at the position of the town, and again, we don't know where the exact POW camp was located, or was it an actual government facility that had been some sort of correctional facility prior to the conflict erupting. But if we look at, because this was in the original area under the control of the Donetsk People's Republic, and if we go to Anvika and just do a distance towards the Ukrainian lines, again, that site could have been hit by both tubed or obviously multiple launch rocket systems. It seems that in all probability that it probably would have been a Ukrainian strike, given where that facility is. Obviously, the Russians have controlled this area for some time, and the idea that they would have shelled this area just seems a little outside the scope of probability in terms of who may have done what. Right now, it seems like it would have been targeted by the Ukrainians, given its position on the map. But again, who knows? But apparently, 40 Ukrainian prisoners of war were killed. Well over 100 were wounded in the strike, and that obviously could possibly go up as well. But we wanted to touch on that real quick. But obviously, we just don't know who did what at this point. And we'll have to just continue to watch things and see what actually occurred. History will ultimately be the judge. And then if we go back up towards where the heaviest fighting is taking place, again, Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, and now down towards Bakhmut and north of Sloviansk as well, we continue to see vicious fighting taking place to the southeast of Bakhmut as Russian forces continue its pressure campaign towards Bakhmut. We have received reports now that the fighting that took place for the main power station to the southeast of Bakhmut was especially vicious. This entailed direct fighting between Russian special operations forces and higher-end Ukrainian light infantry units, possibly special operations forces as well, and or air mobile forces deployed in that area as well. And we do understand that ultimately the Russians were victorious in driving those Ukrainian fighters out of that town and possibly killing and or capturing a portion of that force construct that was there to defend the power facility as well. We continue to see as well to the northwest of Sloviansk, Ukrainian forces continue to pressure Russian forces in this area. This area right now, you can see that a salient has now occurred, and right now this area is contested. The area that is in beige is contested. We anticipate that this was more or less some sort of hit and run operation by Ukrainian forces. We don't anticipate that Ukrainian forces will stay there for an extended period of time, as the Russians will soon conduct massive call for fire missions on this area with obviously heavy artillery and multiple launch rocket systems, and that could become very, very precarious for those Ukrainian lighter units that have infiltrated and are continuing to conduct operations in this area to the northwest of Sloviansk. If you look at the area, you can clearly see that it is not urbanized areas. It's very heavily forested, and this is the sort of terrain that gives, and we've seen the Ukrainians operate like this in the past, utilizing all-terrain vehicles and then units equipped with anti-tank guided weapon systems. And it would appear that the Ukrainians again have moved into this area. Lighter units, but we don't anticipate that this salient will remain for much longer. We don't anticipate this was the part of a larger offensive operation designed to push towards Izum at this point. But we're going to continue to watch what occurs in this area, and obviously fighting continues. To the southwest, in the western bank of the Dnieper River, it would appear, at least on the surface, that Russian forces have stabilized the lines in this area, and the Ukrainians are no longer significantly pushing forward with that offensive operation. It would appear that from the reports that we're receiving that in conducting that operation, unfortunately for the Ukrainian side, they did suffer some fairly significant casualties in this ongoing operation, and as did Russian forces as well, especially some of the rear areas as the Ukrainians conducted some of these long-range HIMARS attacks against Russian supply nodes and command and control areas well behind the front lines. And again, this is the direct result of obviously Western intelligence providing Ukrainian forces with very, very precise coordinates of where Russian forces are located, and two, also providing Ukrainians with these very, very precise long-range HIMARS systems that have proven to be very, very effective. And we're going to continue to monitor this area. We think it has stabilized in terms of the prospect of any sort of possible Ukrainian push towards Kherson, or even a push in the northeast as well. Again, it would appear the Russians have stabilized the lines in this area. But that is pretty much it for today. One other topic I wanted to talk about really quick was the concept that Russia could be named as a state sponsor of terror by the U.S. State Department. So what is the purpose of this? Well, it's media driven. It's mass media driven, and it's designed to try and show at least that the State Department is doing something. Is it a good idea to name the Russian Federation a state sponsor of terror within what we would perceive as what is the intent of naming a nation a state sponsor of terror? Well, this is a war. You're seeing a war between two industrialized nation states, and both sides have conducted operations that we have seen happen in past war, in which civilians have been killed or wounded, and obviously in some cases the poor treatment of both service captured soldiers on both sides. But that has been done through the history of warfare. And I would just ask, is the intent of naming a state a sponsor of terror, does it fall in line with what we are seeing in how the issuance of said naming a state sponsor of terror, would it fall under what has happened in the past in terms of the State Department doing that? And I would have to say no. At this point, it does not. Obviously, the war continues, and yes, civilian targets have been struck, but is Russia directly providing support for some sort of terrorist organization? And at this point, I would have to say no. That's simply not the case. Obviously, there are irregular formations, and probably much less so now than in the previous history of the conflict. But at the same time, the Ukrainians have supported, armed, and deployed nationalistic irregular formations as well, such as the Azov regiment, among others. So again, both sides are acting in the same manner, so to speak. So if you were to name Russia a state sponsor of terror, then given what is happening on the ground, then you would also have to name Ukraine as a state sponsor of terror as well. And I don't think that is, in terms of the intent of that measure, that is not designed to do what they're trying to do with it in this case. I hope that makes sense. Obviously, there are nations that do sponsor terrorism, and again, I don't think we're really looking at that in this situation. But I just wanted to address that real quick. And again, it's really for media mass consumption that the State Department is doing something, and obviously the leadership inside of Ukraine are howling for it right now, and unfortunately for us in the United States, in terms of treasure and maybe not looking at everything in a black and white manner, this is kind of what is happening now on the ground. And I think us as Americans have to look at things not so much in black and white, but try to understand the historical context in terms of what is happening on the ground, why it is happening, and I wouldn't say that we should look at this and again, and there's just this black and white evil where Russia is evil, Ukraine is all good, because again, it's just not that simple. And all I can suggest is do your own research, learn about the history of the conflict, learn about what is happening on the ground. Is Russia a angelic entity? No, absolutely not, and I'm not saying that. But neither is Ukraine as well. You're seeing a war. You're seeing what happens when two nation states disagree, cannot find a political resolution, and this is what happens. We have seen this throughout history. There is a reason the United States invaded Iraq. Some people would say it's a valid reason. Other people would say, no, it's not a valid reason. But again, the same premise maintains. But that does it for today. We'll continue to watch what's happening and report. Thank you for joining us. Have a good day.